ら、バナナ半額。安いわね。あら。
Hey everybody, welcome back to Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the PlayStation 2 Palace, where I take a look at some of my favorite PlayStation 2 games of all time, and a lot of them being games that will never show up on a top 10 all-time for PlayStation 2 list. And if you can't tell already, we're playing Ape Escape 3 today. It is one of the most iconic and one of my favorite platformers on the system, and kind of representative of what Sony was doing in the PlayStation 2 era. And this is the last mainline game in this series, so we'll talk about what I wish would happen in the future. And before I get too far involved, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and the notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But now that monkey and I have both had our coffees, we can talk about the game. Now, while it is an action platformer, it definitely de-emphasizes the platforming aspect of the game in and of itself, and the action and puzzle aspects of it definitely come to the forefront. Sure, you're going to be jumping, but this isn't a traditional 3D platformer, because you have these cutscenes in which the apes come out in full wedding regalia ready to be captured. My point being is this game has an absolutely amazing sense of humor, and it's obviously going to make you laugh and smile at whatever is going on. But it's such an easy premise. Capture X amount of apes per level. Well, they kind of look like monkeys to me. Leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think, and then move on to the next level. I just wish Sony would do something new with this series though. The last mainline game, Ape Escape 3 that you're watching here, came out on the PlayStation 2. This is a series that's begging to be brought to PlayStation VR 2. Sure, we have Astro Bot, but I need something like Ape Escape in full VR. I think it would be absolutely incredible. Now, on the platforming aspect and the action aspect, you will see that you do get this basically lightsaber-esque weapon here, and you can destroy pretty much every non-ape in the game, and you can stun the apes with it as well. At the beginning of the game, capturing an ape is as simple as swinging the net in the right direction, but as you get into further levels, it's almost going to become a puzzle as to how to capture individual apes. And this game on the PlayStation 1, when it first came out, was basically an example of how analog controls would work. It's one of the few PlayStation 1 games that requires the DualShock controller, and all of your net swings, including on Ape Escape 3 here, are 100% controlled by that analog control stick on the right, which means that you do need to get a little used to the controls because it's not something that you've seen before unless you've played the series. But again, just running around in this open field, this wolf here, Red Riding Hood style, it's just hilarious. And I will say that capturing some of these enemies can get quite tough. He's going to jump, he's going to attack you, and in certain areas, they're even going to steal your weapons, whether it's your net or your lightsaber. They're going to take things from you and you need to get them back. And that's why this game is so much fun. It isn't just a platformer like Crash Bandicoot or Super Mario 64. It's a platformer that has a lot of different puzzle aspects in it, and you will see there as totally whiffing that analog shot. But each ape in later levels is going to have a little bit of a challenge to capture them, and that's why I love this game so much, because the puzzle aspect nature really does go deep. But I will say visually and sound-wise, this game is also spectacular. Now, I am playing it on PCSX2 for the upscaling for the video, but I own an original disc on PlayStation 2 and on a CRT television. This game looks spectacular, and it's something that I think should be modernized. I would love to see Ape Escape 4 on the PlayStation 5 with the current hardware power. It would just be such an intriguing experience, and this does feel, like I said, old Sony. This was made by Japan Studio, and of course they still make games, but these games feel like quintessential early generation Sony games on PlayStation, and I wish they would bring some more of that love back to modern systems. You'll see here, after you defeat individual levels, you're going to get some different upgrades. They're going to have you get transformation abilities, which are going to become crucial to actually finishing the game. Because once you get the stage 3 on, that puzzle aspect is really going to amp up, and there's going to be some apes that you cannot capture unless you transform or otherwise figure out their patterns. And that's what's so much fun about this game. It looks very simple, and it is a pick up and play game, but getting good at it and actually progressing in it's going to require a lot of thinking. And I love all the different levels here. We've gone from basically a seaside resort to a wooded Red Riding Hood area to now this Germanic castle that's going to have some Wagner-esque sort of opera going on, which is something kids are definitely not going to know. But what I will say, speaking of opera, is the soundtrack is quite good, so go ahead and listen for 45 seconds, come back and tell you more about Ape Escape. I don't know if there's a genre of music that's called to catch apes to, but if there is, the music in this game definitely works. And you'll see here, now that we're into this castle, we have this one ape running around, and they can be absolutely maddening to catch. They are definitely faster than you, so you need to learn the angles and cut them off to be able to grab them. But that's what's so much fun about this game. But again, just the sense of humor as this ape comes down in an opera style in that full dress and just trips on the stairs is always something to look at and something to laugh at. And that's the most fun. They really take the entire monkey aspect really far with all those bananas on the banisters there. Now, I know the game's called Ape Escape, but I'm going to call them monkeys half the time. You're just going to have to deal with it because that's what they look like to me. But again, it's just so colorful, it's just so quirky, it's just such a unique idea that I absolutely love this. When I first bought Ape Escape on PlayStation 1, and then I got Ape Escape 2 and 3 on PlayStation 2, I just fell in love with these games, and if that's not King Wilhelm there, I'm not sure who it's supposed to be. But again, this is just the type of game that personifies what the PlayStation 2 did. It's both modern for the time, it's a 3D platformer, but it does things differently. Sony was always developing games that felt kind of different from what everyone else was doing. And the Ape Escape franchise is no different. Obviously, you've been watching the intros to all these videos with the different ape-themed commercials. This game was always meant to be tongue-in-cheek weird, and I love it for that. And as we run up here to this camera and you see the king just sitting around, all he's going to say is he's a terrible dancer. Contextually, it doesn't make much sense whatsoever, but it's 100% hilarious, and that is what I love about the game so much. But there's so many different things in this game, and so many different nods to different media that kids would not understand whatsoever. It feels like it was really developed for both kids and adults at the same time, and I will give you some more examples of what those are in just a little bit. But now that we've gotten through the German castle level, we're going to go into our first boss fight, and I love the cutscenes here. They are so well designed that all the voice acting, even in English, is great. I can't strike it for that whatsoever, because in this era, sometimes you got great voice acting, sometimes you got terrible voice acting. Ape Escape 3 definitely is on the good voice acting side of the fence, and I love as this entire bridge just gets destroyed in such a cinematic way. Our playable character managed to stand in just the right spot so that she did not get knocked off. We're talking like a foot at best, and I just think that's always funny. Now, I will say that if there is one slight downside to the game, so the boss fights aren't the most difficult things ever. They're definitely spectacle, but for this burst boss fight here, there's basically a way that you can just get into position and be invulnerable. But you'll see I use the first transform ability, which gives us a much wider swing with this magic wand here, and it is fun. And as you go through later levels in the game, you get new gadgets and new transformations that you're going to be able to use. I do love even those little interstitial titles there where he's going to shish kebab us. But like I said, if you run close enough to the boss and just let him drop down, you can basically sit there, not get hit whatsoever because you're out of his attack area, and just 100% rail on him. I know the game was made for kids in mind, so it's not surprising that the boss battles aren't that hard, but it's funny because some of the general monkey capturing techniques are super hard, so it does have a really weird kind of difficulty spike in spots. But that's what I love about the game so much, trying to understand how to capture each individual monkey, because you're going to see right off the top, this monkey right here is a sprinter, and you're not really going to be able to catch up to him whatsoever. No matter what angle you try to run, he is going to get by you. But the great part is, we can hop in a race car and mow that monkey down in the streets until we're able to try to capture him. There's always a way to capture a monkey, you just need to figure out what it is, but sometimes you still whiff and you completely miss that net. And that is the thing, it does take a little bit to get used to what's going on. But as I mentioned earlier, this game has a sense of humor that's definitely geared towards adults as well, because we have a Charlie Chaplin ape playing the tramp in a black and white setting here. And I love that all the robots are just different directors or camera crew people, and one of those broadcast cameras is actually just a missile launcher. And I have used cameras like that in my career, and I can tell you missiles definitely don't come out of them. Would have been a lot more fun if they did. But I know I mentioned earlier that this game has such a fun soundtrack, and I'll let you listen to one piece of it. But go ahead after we catch Charlie Chaplin Ape here and listen to another 30 seconds, because it is one of my favorite soundtracks on PlayStation 2. I'll come back and show you more fun things, and we'll talk more about Ape Escape. But enjoy. It's just such a bright, cheery soundtrack, and it always makes me happy to hear it. And I love that we basically are against the St. Louis Rams here, or that's what I'm assuming at least, because he does have a Rams helmet on. As we move on into the next level, what I love about this game as well is just how diverse all of the different stages are. Not a single stage lasts too long where you get bored of it, and the minute you move on to a new stage, you're going to get a new transformation or a new mechanic here like this slingshot, and it's going to look completely different. And now the apes have guns, and I'm pretty sure that'd be the last thing you would want to do in real life is hand an ape a weapon, because they do have thumbs and they do know how to use them. All jokes aside, I'm sure an ape has probably shot somebody one time, but if you find me a news article and link it to me below, I'll pin the comment just for fun. But again, this game is just hilarious. That's why I love it so much. Mechanically, it's a great game. The soundtrack, the music, all of the sound effects, and the visuals are spectacular as well. But it really is the absurd sense of humor that I can't get enough of. Like these two monkeys here, they're on a TV set doing exercise equipment commercials, and you have one ape in a tank top and workout shorts just using that exerciser. It is hilarious, and you even get a money-back guarantee for it in the game. But then, of course, when you come down here, all of those apes that are filming, the announcer, and even the workout ape himself, you need to capture, and it's just hilarious. But one of my favorite parts of the game, and of course I wanted to show it to you before we left this video, is this ape continues to run around on that exercise equipment and uses a spin attack to knock the weapons out of your hands. It must have been so much fun to make this game. The banana shopping network, everything about it is well loved, well detailed. You can tell the people that were involved really had a great time making it, and that's why I have such a great time playing it. This ape here though can be hard as hell to capture. You really got to get your timing right. And if you've never played an Ape Escape game before, I recommend you start with either 2 or 3. The original on the PlayStation 1 is great, but it's definitely a little bit more antiquated than these two games. But when I think about the PlayStation 2, when I think about Sony first-party games for the console, Ape Escape is what comes to mind. Now leave me a comment down below, tell me, did you play it back in the day, or are you going to play it after this video? Short of that, I got more apes to capture and we gotta go, so I'll see you next time. Bye bye.